Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten, Executive Recruiter, Director of Recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. And today, I have brought you yet another amazing guest. So let me tell you all about her so we can hurry up and get her on here so she can share some of her wisdom with us today. So today, I'd like to welcome Berta Medina, founder of Dreamers Succeed. Berta is an accountability and adventure coach, infusing classic coaching with a healthy dose of discovery and adventure. With her specialized trademark of comfort zone coaching, she's revolutionized the path to growth for individuals and teams. You just wait till I tell you what she does. She is also a certified, wait for it, here's my plug for the episode, certified go-giver speaker and practices the go-giver philosophy of another one of our guests, Bob Berg. She joins us today to discuss accountability and how you can utilize it to push yourself to success. Berta, I just want to sit here and go, Berta, 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 Berta.
Hi.
Hello.
So happy to be here, Casey.
I knew from the moment I saw you on the networking hub that we're both a part of with, and I like to kind of make the connections for people because I want people to see how you can make connections and keep networking. It doesn't stop with just when I met Frank Agan, because then he brought me you, and you have brought me some amazing people, some of which or whom will be coming up on the show in later episodes. But I am just, was so thrilled because I knew it's like the energy's connected. I was like, oh yeah, we gotta be best friends.
Yeah. And it was so funny, Casey, because Frank connected us and then Scott connected us, Scott Ferguson.
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay, so now I know this is real.
Yeah.
I love it.
It is so much fun. So much fun. And that picture that you and Scott Ferguson took of you two having coffee, so unfair.
Really? That I'm not going to tell you that we're getting together again tomorrow for coffee. I will leave that out of this conversation.
Man. And, and I've
You got to get down here.
I do. I need to, because I want to go see Bob and I want to meet him in person for the first time. And I just thought that was so great that, because we talk about the go-giver philosophy on almost every single episode. And I flipped out when I found out you were go-giver certified and he was your personal mentor. Like,
yes, he's amazing.
Crazy.
He's amazing. I love him.
It is such a great philosophy. So anyway, we're here to talk about you today, not Bob. He gets to steal a lot of this highlight, but not all of it. So, and I was just sharing with you before we came on the show, because you're an adventure coach. So let's talk about that first, and then we'll kind of bring back up what I was just talking about why you should be proud of me and how I pushed out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
So as an adventure coach, you help people get out of their comfort zone and face their fears. What led you to this passion of yours?
It's so funny, Casey, because when I was invited on a mission trip back when I was actually in the University of Miami getting my coaching certification, and part of this mission trip involved climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. We were raising funds to help Maasai children climb out of poverty. So they did this whole thing. There were 23 climbers, and we spent 7 days on the mountain, right? Sleeping in full showers. But all the climbers knew that I was in the middle of this coaching journey. So every other day or something, they would say, hey, can I walk with you today? Because I'm having this issue with my boss or having this issue with my spouse or whatever. So we'd walk. And what I found, Casey, was that we are out in nature. Adrenaline is pumping. We are, doing things that are a little bit out of our comfort zone. We're much more open. So I came back from that trip and asked my mentor coach at the time and my professor, I said, listen, does adventure coaching exist? And she said, what do you care? It exists now. And I found that getting people to face their fears and out of their comfort zone very early in the process, I can accomplish with them in 6 months what would take me 3 years at a Starbucks. And I'm not here to just keep people on the leash, for coaching. I want to help you get to where you want to be, so that you build your own coaching muscles and you're able to coach yourself through things, and you move on. So that's how that was born. And it's been a hell of a ride.
So I would like for you to share what is the craziest adventure technique you've used with as a coaching technique.
Oh, okay. So I had one of my first coaching clients, and I've done this many times since then. So now people know I always tell people, my first coaching clients, Marie, came to me for coaching, and she had just have a really toxic relationship, single now, the two children, moved to her parents, a house she could no longer afford, and she didn't have much to show for the relationship, except she'd gained like 100 pounds. And,
Oh,
and I knew her from before, and it's in a bad spot. So she comes to her coaching, and I'm just trying to sort of get her out of her funk. And we have this fair, the state fair that comes around once a year. And I said, listen, the youth fair is in town. Let's just go and have a little fun. And she said, oh, I don't go to the fair. And I said, why? And she said, because I don't ride anything. And I said, why? Don't think. And she said, because I'm afraid of heights. So advice number one for anyone out there, you never tell an adventure coach that you are afraid of heights. So we get together, and our next coaching session, I tell her, meet me at the same Starbucks. It was a Saturday morning. I said, just be there at 5 a.m. And she's crazy. And she shows up at 5 a.m. So I put her in my car. We drive about an hour and a half away, and I park at Florida Ridge Park and gliding field. And she's looking at me like I had lost my mind, and she's getting all red. And I said, listen, your flight is paid for, but you don't have to do it. I'm not going to push you to do it. I'm going to do it. But I had done it many times. And as we waited for it to be our turn, she actually built up the courage to do it. And what I noticed was that she was up there at 1,000 feet for 11 minutes. And she came down and she said, if I told my parents and my kids what I just did, they would leave me. And I said, actually, they will, because I had them record the entire flight. And you're going to have enough video and photographs to always remind yourself that that fear is just right here. And it had nothing to do with me, Casey. It was all her. She dared to get into the hang glider, and she dared to do it. But what I found was that she started disbelieving or trying to prove whether a lot of the other fears and limiting beliefs that she had not. And she made tremendous headway in no time, because she began to embolden herself, which I thought was beautiful. So I've done that many times, and we go climbing and we go mission tripping, and people that have never maybe even left their home city, or traveling to Cambodia or to Kenya or something, and doing that work that is so a part of us when we're other people. And it's just amazing how people come out of that comfort zone and come out of that fear into a whole new world for themselves.
I take back what I told you earlier about being afraid of heights.
Too late.
I was just kidding.
Too late.
Just kidding.
You already overcame it this weekend. So
I did overcome
we'll
it.
Talk about that.
Well, I faced it. I'm not going to say I overcame it. Those drop-offs in Colorado are pretty severe.
Yes, they are.
So you just mentioned the comfort zone. So let's kind of talk a little bit. What is your definition of the comfort zone, and what are some tips that you can give people that may not be able to go with you and go hang gliding to get out of their comfort zone?
Yeah, and I always, I was doing a workshop once, and I looked up the comfort zone in Webster's dictionary, and it is defined as a place where someone arrives where they feel comfortable and complacent. And I'm thinking, that is not a comfort zone. So to me, it is a graveyard of potential and hope. And it is where all dreams go to die. And I don't believe that any life worth living can be lived within the confines of a comfort zone. So a few of the things that I tell people, and only because I've done it myself, and Casey, I'm like you, we're not talking the talk, we're walking the walk. I can't, as a coach, take anyone anywhere that I haven't been myself. And people, I'm constantly stretching and facing my fears. Not that I don't fear anything, but I'll face it. I'll face it, like you just said, every time. So I think one of the things is that we need to dream big enough. You know that phrase that says, if your dreams aren't, they don't scare you, they're not big enough. We need to be dreaming big enough, just to be uncomfortable enough, that forces us to become someone different, to be able to accomplish those dreams. And the only way that we can do that is to constantly push the boundaries of our comfort zone. And that's a daily practice. I'm a believer in the Eleanor Roosevelt quote of do one thing every day that scares you. I am a firm believer of doing it scared. I have proven things to myself that I never imagined could have happened, but it all came from my need and the clarity, big why, and my need to constantly stretch and challenge myself to go there. So I think that's the one thing I would say is, you know what your big why is, you know who you need to become to get there, and now just stretch.
You know, I am a big believer of when I hear things over and over again, especially on the same day, that I need to pay attention. And one of the things that you said earlier is that doing it scared.
Mhm.
The way I heard it today, and it was on Hal Elrod's podcast,
Mhm.
his guest said, if there's something that scares me, then I have to do it. So kind of along
Yep.
those same lines. And
Yep.
I actually
Absolutely.
had another guest that said the same thing. If it scares me, I've got to do it. If I'm scared at
Yep.
all, I have to
Yep.
do it. So I love that you
Yep.
brought that up. And it truly does. I mean, is it there's a lot of fear for anything that we do. I mean, starting a podcast. You have a podcast.
Hmm.
I have a podcast. First time I
Absolutely.
walked in to record, there was a lot of fear there. But
Yes.
it you just keep going back and keep doing it and keep
That's
doing it and keep
it.
doing it.
Yeah.
So
It's like a
so
muscle. It's
another
practice.
yeah, for sure. And I
Hmm.
will keep practicing on my heights. I promise.
I love it.
But I'm not going hang gliding. That's not happening. I like to have 2 feet on the ground. So another thing that you talk about a lot and that you are is an accountability coach. And accountability is a huge space or a huge piece that hiring managers look for when they're hiring for
Mhm.
their team. So what is something that, well, first, what does accountability mean to you? And how can someone know if they are being accountable?
That's a great question, Casey, and we'll talk in a minute about what it has to do with a job seeker now. But I think accountability really is number one, clarity on what it is that you want to accomplish, and then just reverse engineering how you want to get there. And I'll give you the perfect example. When I was working on my private pilot's license, you have to do a cross country solo, and it
Wait a minute.
sounds a lot more
That
intimidating.
let's just stop right there for just 1 second. Private pilot's license.
Yeah.
There's nothing this woman doesn't do. Sorry, go ahead.
It, Sorry. So a cross country solo is part of what you have to do before you get licensed. So and it's not you fly across the country. You have to land at a different airport or two, and you have to spend 2 hours in the air. That's those are the requirements. So when I went to do my first cross country solo, I left from Tamiami Airport, flew to Pahokee, which was about an hour away, landed in Pahokee, landed in Belglade, that's in Central Florida near Lake Okeechobee, and then had to come back to Tamiami. Now I'm in a 1970s Cessna 2. Those are the best trainer planes. They have a GPS, but you never know if the GPS is going to go wrong. So I had to have my flight map. I had to map out my flight, and I had these waypoints along the way. You know, when you get here, you're going to see this long intersection. It's very visible from the plane. You're going to see this cell tower. You're going to see this water tower. And those were my posts along the way so that I knew that I wasn't on track. Because if something went wrong with the GPS, by the time I noticed, I might not have enough fuel to get me to where I needed to be, much less get me back. So those waypoints are what I call our accountability metrics. We need to make sure, they always say, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one bite at a time. Now you need to know, depending on where you want to be and by when you want to be there, when you need to schedule those bites and how big or is to be. And I think the best way to know if someone has a question of, am I being accountable? Are you accomplishing your goals? Are you setting uncomfortable goals that are just stretching you enough? And are you accomplishing them? If you're not being accountable. And if you are, you're doing great. Congratulations.
Yay,
And
I
I
set
think
goals.
that's the one. Yeah, there you go. And I think that's the one way to know if you're being accountable. It's setting the goals that have a real date. You're hitting the mark every time. In my opinion, the only way that happens is with good accountability.
Excellent, excellent. So, and as far as the job seeker, I mean, how would we relate that to a job seeker?
I think with the job seeker, you have to know what the goal is, and I think most of them know more or less, what they're looking for, the position, the pay, all of that stuff, and then just set really good goals for yourself and track your progress. How many interviews are you scheduling? How many connections are you trying to make on LinkedIn with those key people? Another thing that they can do is make sure that they're adjusting things that aren't happening. Make sure that, again, that they have a date by when they want to have this position. And it's a numbers game, like everything. I always say the numbers never lie. And the other thing is, if there is a way for you to buddy up with someone or join a job seekers accountability group, I think that's a great way to keep yourself accountable. Because what happens, Casey, a lot of times, especially when we're looking for a certain position, that that job search is not going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what happens is we say, well, I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll do it tomorrow. And before you know, 2 months have passed, and you're maybe up at your 3 month goal, and you're thinking, I haven't even did. So I think it's just setting very clear intentions of what you want to accomplish, and then making sure that you're keeping track of that progress.
Okay. So, all right, let's say I'm a job seeker and I've gotten the job, I've joined a team, and I'm ingrained now. But let's say what role does accountability play towards in motivation and office morale?
Oof. I love that. I love that, Casey, because I think that accountability needs to be baked into the organization. Any organization that's looking to expand, that's looking to scale, that's looking to serve their team, there needs to be an element of accountability. And what happens is, and this is the key, and I work with a lot of corporations, and I do trainings, and I think the corporations that are thriving, even in the midst of this pandemic, are those organizations where the people that are involved have a say in the goal. They're involved. They take ownership of the goals. They take ownership of the accounting parameters that are being set. They can't say, well, this was unrealistic, because they help set them themselves. And what happens is, not only is it motivating because they own it, but it also keeps the office morale going, because they really feel that they had a say in the process. And I was to Dr. Elia Gorgoris. I don't know if you know him, and
I
Coach
do,
Khan.
because you introduced me to
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
He's
So
amazing.
amazing, right? And they were saying, employers think that what their employees want are, more pay and more attractive benefits and room for advancement. And those don't even score in the top five of what's really going on there when they interview the employees. The employees want to know that they're doing work that matters, that they are appreciated, okay, and that they're not getting, things out of left field, that they're involved in the process. So I think that if the organizations that are really enrolling their teams in having a say in those accountability parameters, are going to be much in a much better position to thrive than those who are just leading, well, not leading, dictating what needs to be done.
That really reminds me of coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Right.
seeing a lot of organizations that are bringing coaches in and then having that coaching mentality inside
Mm-hmm.
the, company, instead of that,
Right.
like you said, dictatorship. But really
Mm-hmm.
what you're telling these companies to do is to get buy-in from their employees
Yeah.
and from their
a
teams. And
hundred
when
percent.
you do that, people own that process, and they're going to be way more productive.
Right, right. And I think, Casey, even to take it a step further, when it comes to that knowing that they're appreciated and knowing that they have some skin in the game, really finding out, taking that extra effort to find out what goals, personal, doesn't just have to be professional development, but what are their personal goals? What are their dreams? What are they striving for? And how does the company play into their ability to achieve those goals? Because what happens is then you become enrolled in helping them succeed, and they're going to love the company. I just had a conversation with some clients this morning. We were in a strategy session, and they said that they remember speaking to and it was a big restoration company, where one of the employees had the logo of the company tattooed on his arm.
Oh, wow. Now that's
And they
buy-in.
asked him, and he said, "Are you kidding? I love it here. I'll never leave." And that type of loyalty can only happen when they're growing with us. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I know I talk about
Yeah.
my company all the time. And I feel like I'm so fortunate that I've found a place that is so supportive because, the story I've mentioned it several times, is that, when I went and interviewed with VIP, and I really didn't want to make a change at the time, but instead of them saying, "This is what we want you to come here and do," they said, "What do you want to do?"
Oh, I
In
love it.
every step of the way. And I can tell you what I told them I wanted to do when I started there. I'm not doing any of that now. Everything I'm doing is completely different. And every
Wow.
step of the way, they've encouraged me, and they've been very transparent. And they've been like, "What do you want to do today?" And I mean, and it changes.
Yes, I love
And
that. I love
it's
it.
so amazing. I mean, this podcast was born out of that because they're like, "What do you want to do?" You know? And so
That's
very, very
beautiful.
fortunate. I wish all companies had the same model that they
Yeah.
could, because I'm not going anywhere ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
And they're breeding all this innovation that's going to help them
yeah,
grow.
absolutely.
They're giving people permission to innovate, permission almost to fail. Listen, just try it, and if it doesn't
Yeah.
work, then we'll pivot. But I just love, and I know that there are a lot of companies that are looking at things differently now, and they really need to be, because, Casey, for us it's one thing, but the millennials want to be of something that means something, that they know what the company stands for. And I think the companies that are doing that well are, we're hearing about them for sure.
And I think, and I don't know if you're seeing this, but I'm particularly seeing this, that a lot of companies' true colors are coming out right now. And
Absolutely.
some of it's really, really good. Some of it's like, what?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think this has been good in a way. I mean, I'm not saying that I want to go through it again, but I'm just saying it's really
Right,
been good
right.
to let us see what, companies are there that are shining and rising to the top. And
Hmm.
I will say my company's one of them, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to talk about my favorite subject in the world real quick. So you are a certified go-giver, and
Hmm.
here at the podcast, I mean, obviously, go-giver gets a lot of love from us. So,
Hmm.
what role do you think giving plays in a person's career?
Everything, Casey. And I think what happens is that we can't bring in the beauty of who we are as people into our careers, obviously, and maintain that flow of authenticity, so that we don't have to be something different when we're work, or when we're with it's just the same thing. So I think by default we're born givers, and that it feels so much better to give a gift than it is to receive. So I think that the people that are in service mode constantly, and I think that's one of the beautiful things. When I first read The Go Giver, I had always operated my business like that. I was like an anomaly, weirdo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to do stuff, veterans didn't pay, and police officers and firefighters who were on the front line pay. They'd come to me for, when I had my title company, and my Danny, who was my first assistant, if you charge for what you for free, you'd make a lot more money than what you're actually charging for. But you know, easy, and that was never the reason that I did it, but I always doubled my business with every opportunity, that because I wasn't looking at the lack. On the contrary, I was looking at it from such a place of abundance, more than, like, if I had more than enough to give. And so it became truth that I always had more than enough to give. So one of the things that I really loved about the Go Giver when I first read it was almost like, listen, we do exist. We do exist, and we're out there, and this is absolutely and I say it's the most beautiful and most rewarding path to success in business, is to operate from a place of giving. And we don't know how to you don't know how to do it any other way, because you're a giver. Okay, I wouldn't know how to do it any other way. I could go and get a PhD and doing it differently, I wouldn't know how to do it. So I think I think that it's key for us to be able to operate from that space, because it feeds us. You know, when we go volunteering, a lot of times I'll take clients, or I'll take groups, or when I had my company, we would go and volunteer. That's the best way to breathe life into the teamwork of an organization. Just go out and serve the community together, and you're going to come back the following week. I guarantee you, everybody's going to be on a high, like there's no tomorrow. And
I
it's just we're just feeding that part of us that naturally, that's what we want to do.
You know, here at VIP, we're all about giving value first. And
Mm-hmm.
and I tell people all the time, if you give value first when I'm training them, the money will follow. It has to.
Yeah,
It just has to.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
wow, I could talk to you all day. And I think we said this the last time we had a conversation,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
just, you just have so much great information, and I just really, really appreciate your time today. I do, however, have our VIP questions that I'd like to ask
Do
you. Are
it,
you
girl.
ready?
Okay,
You got
I
this.
think so.
Okay.
Let's see.
So, if you were chosen to be one of the first colonists on Mars, what three things or people would you take with you?
Okay, first of all, going to Mars is on my bucket list. Okay, I
Oh,
would totally love to do that, even if I didn't have a chance of coming back. Just totally, I'm just putting it out there. Um, so I think I would take um, kindness, and that is the personification of kindness is my daughter, and she is always in a place of service, always in a place of seeing what she can do. She's always going out of her way to see who she can serve and how she can serve them. She's 32. She's the delicious, beautiful, adventurous 8-year old. But my daughter is always in, let's see how we can serve mode. So I would bring kindness. I would bring integrity and good work ethic, and that is, my son personifies integrity. I mean, more in his little pinky than most people have in their entire body. And it's got a work ethic like there's no tomorrow. And so I would definitely bring my son. And then I would bring optimism. And that the personification of optimism is my granddaughter, Chloe. She's 8 years old, and she can see nothing is impossible. Everybody's good until they prove otherwise, and life is going to be wonderful no matter what. And my husband doesn't listen to anything I do anyway, so it's okay. But he would be my fourth if I had four, because he can really do anything, and he would be able to build us whatever we needed there. But those would be my top three, just
he's your,
because of what they represent for us.
so he's your MacGyver.
He's my MacGyver. He's my
Got it.
MacGyver. Yeah,
Okay. I
my
love
MacGyver.
I love how you explain that. That's beautiful. Your kindness and optimism and integrity. That's very unique and beautiful. Do you want to know what Bob said?
Thank you. Do it.
He refused to go.
I totally believe it.
He says, I don't
Bob
like
is
to travel
amazing.
much.
Bob, no, yeah, but Bob is amazing. He's just amazing. But yeah, I totally get it. Totally believe it.
So I'm super curious to hear the answer to this question. What is one thing you do each morning to set your day up for success?
I read. I read like a crazy person. But I read every morning. I That's how I start my day. Many times that's how I end my day too. And I read as much as I possibly can.
What are you reading right now?
Constant learning more. Right now I am reading Outliers, and
Oh.
good so far.
Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Yes,
Have you read his new book?
absolutely. So no, I
Okay,
haven't.
don't
I just
read
got
it.
Outliers, but I know.
Listen to the
Don't?
audio. The Talking
Oh,
with
okay.
Strangers. It is phenomenal.
Really?
So
I love
good.
it.
Yep.
I love it. Good. I'm
Talking
glad
to
you mentioned
strangers.
that. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I'm enjoying that. So I'm an avid reader, believe big time, and we have access to so much positivity and so many mentors and so much at our disposal, just at our fingertips, and people don't take advantage of it, and I don't understand it, but that's okay. But I do read, and that's how I usually start. And I'm up at 5 in the morning, so my 5 to 7 a.m. is usually that reading, journaling, that sort of thing. Starts with
Love
reading
it.
though.
Love it. So if your life's story was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
I would say it has to be spreading optimism. Spreading optimism is an adventure.
I like that.
Spreading optimism is an adventure. Yeah, that
I
would be
like
it.
that. And I do think that
'Cause it is.
summarizes who you are right there in a nutshell. So how do people find you, Berta?
Thank you. So I'm easy. I'm Berta Medina, BertaMedina on LinkedIn, and that's my website as well. Everywhere else, I am Dreamers Succeed on Instagram, Facebook. I'm very, very active in the LinkedIn sandbox, so that's usually the easiest place. But yeah, that's it. That's where they find me.
Well, and I would like to encourage our audience that if you do reach out to Berta via LinkedIn, make sure you send a note with that and let her know that you heard about her on the We Are VIP podcast.
Thank you, Casey. I just want to say, that I love you totally, and I am so honored to be here, and I just love who you are, and everyone that comes back that knows you is always singing your praises, and I'm
Aw.
not surprised. But just thank you for all that you're doing to lift us up always, constantly.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you for that.
Don't make me cry on my podcast.
No, girl, what?
Well, Berta, I just have one last thing to say to you. You are a VIP.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.